Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Even fortresses have windows. They just decide when to let the light in. The Sigma female is not cold. She's climate-controlled. Her calm isn't emptiness, it's precision. While most people perform vulnerability to feel seen, she performs nothing. She studies, observes, adapts, and keeps her emotional perimeter tighter than a bank vault on a bad day. Psychologists have found that individuals who build emotional self-sufficiency early in life are less likely to display visible vulnerability in adulthood, not because they lack emotion, but because they've learned its cost. That's the Sigma female's secret. Her strength was never born from dominance, but from emotional damage control. And yet, there are moments, brief and almost imperceptible, when even she cracks, when the unshakable becomes human. It's not drama, it's data in motion. You'll never see her fall apart in public. She'll do it at 3 a.m., while debating whether vulnerability is just emotional debt with bad interest rates. This is not about weakness. It's about the rare, almost sacred moments when the most self-contained woman alive accidentally lets the world see her heartbeat, and it changes everything. Number 1. When a Sigma female is misunderstood by the average person, she barely blinks. She's used to being misread. It's almost her default state. People either romanticize her quietness or resent it, and she's learned to detach from both. But when someone she genuinely respects, someone she's allowed into that small circle of mental trust, gets her wrong, it shakes something deep inside her that she rarely admits exists. It's not about ego. It's about recognition. Sigma females don't crave to be liked. They crave to be accurately seen. When that doesn't happen, especially by a person who mattered, it feels like standing in a room where she's speaking fluently, but no one understands the language. The sting isn't dramatic, but it's sharp, like an invisible paper cut on the soul. She won't yell, won't plead, won't correct. She just retreats quietly, trying to process how something that felt real could turn into distortion so fast. The truth is, she invests heavily in understanding others, yet gives little room for others to understand her. That's where the paradox begins. The person she values often reads her independence as indifference, her silence as disapproval, her composure as coldness. And while she knows people interpret through their own filters, she can't help but feel a flicker of disappointment that someone she respected didn't look closer. In that rare moment, her guard slips, not outwardly, but internally. She questions whether her emotional privacy is protection or self-sabotage. It's one of those quiet breakdowns no one sees, the kind that doesn't come with tears but with long pauses and an uncomfortable realization. She built a fortress so strong that even the right people can't find the door. And still, after that silent ache fades, she doesn't chase or explain. She simply files the moment under unrecoverable connections and rebuilds, stronger, quieter, but a little less trusting. It's a loss she'll never speak of, but one she'll never forget. Number 2. For the Sigma female, solitude isn't punishment. It's her preferred ecosystem. She thrives in her own company where no one drains her, distracts her, or demands pieces of her she isn't ready to give. She's learned to love her silence like most people love attention. But even the most self-sufficient hearts have a threshold, and when solitude stretches too long, it starts to shift from freedom into something heavier, a kind of quiet that begins to echo back at her. She won't admit it easily, but there are moments when being misunderstood feels less painful than being unseen. When days pass and her phone stays silent, or when she accomplishes something deeply personal and realizes there's no one she feels safe enough to tell, that's when the emptiness hums beneath her calm. It's not loneliness in the conventional sense, it's the ache of not being witnessed. The Sigma female doesn't need constant validation, but she does crave rare recognition. The kind that says, I see who you are when you're not performing. Yet she's built her life to make sure no one ever gets that close. So when the silence grows too long, she starts to feel the contradiction of her own design. Her independence protected her, but it also isolated her. Her peace kept her sane, but it also kept her separate. In that space, her guard slips. She might replay old conversations, reread messages she once ignored, or catch herself missing the presence of someone who once understood her tone without her having to explain. It's not nostalgia, it's deprivation. The realization that emotional privacy can turn into emotional starvation if no one's ever allowed in. Still, she won't rush to fix it. She'll sit with it, analyze it, and eventually restabilize. But something in her changes. The next time she meets someone who truly sees her, she might hesitate a little less, speak a little more, and let one small window in her fortress stay open, just enough for light to get through. Number 3. The Sigma female is built to detect motives. She can spot manipulation in a glance, read intentions before words are spoken, and navigate emotional traps as easily as breathing. She's seen people smile while hiding knives behind their backs, offer comfort while counting the cost. Her defenses aren't just walls, they're hypersensitive sensors calibrated to protect her from the insincere. So when someone approaches her with gentleness that doesn't need a payoff, it's almost revolutionary. This isn't flattery, it isn't charm, it isn't strategy dressed as kindness. It's the kind of gentleness that doesn't check for a reaction, doesn't expect gratitude, and doesn't record a mental ledger. It's quiet, consistent, and wholly unselfish. For someone like her, who spent a lifetime passing every gesture for hidden meaning, it's disarming to the point of shock. Her instinct is to test it, to prod it, to find the catch. But this kind of gentleness holds steady under scrutiny, never faltering, never bending. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it undermines her mental fortifications. The Sigma female doesn't need saving, but she experiences a rare relief in recognizing someone who doesn't see her strength as a challenge or a puzzle to solve. This isn't attraction. It's a recalibration of trust. In those moments, her armor doesn't crumble. It pauses. She allows herself to feel safe without conditions, without the constant analysis of motives. That pause is extraordinary because it's not just emotional, it's strategic. She's letting someone in, but on her terms, without fear or calculation. The gentleness doesn't push her forward, it doesn't seduce, it simply exists. And in its existence, it becomes the kind of quiet revolution that makes her consider the rare possibility that not everyone's intent needs to be measured or defended against. For the Sigma female, encountering uncompromising gentleness isn't softening. It's a revelation, a subtle yet profound acknowledgement that safety can exist without surrender. And that alone is enough to make her guard shift, if only just enough to let a human connection in. Number 4. The Sigma female carries a shadow most people aren't brave enough to face. It's not just moods or bad days. It's the intensity of her mind, the edges of her personality that slice through superficiality, the parts of her past and present that are raw, unpolished, and unapologetic. Most people see it and recoil, misreading it as aggression, instability, or a warning they aren't equipped to handle. They retreat, leaving her to operate in solitude, guarding that part of herself like a priceless artifact. But when someone meets her darkness with stillness, when they don't flinch, don't try to soften it, and don't run, something shifts inside her. This person isn't intimidated, isn't trying to fix her, and isn't seeking to exploit her edges for personal gain. Instead, they witness it and stay present, steady as a rock. That stability doesn't just earn her attention, it earns her trust, which is far more valuable to a Sigma female than anything else. She doesn't reveal this side lightly. It's not playful vulnerability or casual honesty. It's the raw core of who she is, the parts she usually keeps behind layers of control and observation. To see someone accept that without judgment, without expectation, is profoundly rare. It communicates silently that she can be herself fully, without consequence, and that for once, she doesn't have to calculate, anticipate, or armor up. In this rare exchange, her walls aren't torn down, they simply become porous. She allows herself to be seen in a way that is almost uncomfortable in its intimacy, because it's not forced, it's not demanded. It's recognition, mirrored in calm acceptance. The one who can do this doesn't just witness her darkness, they validate it without interference, and in doing so, they become one of the very few people allowed into the side of her that exists beyond power, control, and perfection. For the Sigma female, this moment is not weakness. It's acknowledgement, and acknowledgement is one of the most sacred gifts she will ever grant. Number 5. The Sigma female has spent years mastering her boundaries. She knows how to protect her time, her energy, and her emotional space with precision. Most people don't even realize she's testing them constantly, observing whether they respect her limits without needing constant reminders. She's developed this vigilance because the world rarely honors boundaries unless they're explicitly defended, and over time, this becomes second nature, a survival mechanism, and a filter for who's worth engaging with. When someone respects her boundaries without her having to assert them, it throws her off in a way few things can. It's not something she expects. She's accustomed to negotiation, to polite resistance, to subtle infringements that test her patience and resolve. So when someone simply honors her limits without hesitation or commentary, it's almost a shock to her system. That automatic respect communicates something profound. They see her as autonomous, as fully capable of defining her own space, and they aren't trying to control or manipulate her. In that moment of unexpected recognition, her walls, which are usually rigid and uncompromising, soften subtly. She doesn't drop her guard entirely, but she allows a degree of trust to seep in, quietly reassessing the person in front of her. This is more than politeness or civility. It's a rare alignment with her values and her sense of self. It demonstrates that someone can engage with her without ego, without testing, without demanding concessions. For the Sigma female, this kind of interaction is almost revolutionary. It signals that connection doesn't have to come at the expense of her independence, that someone can approach her world without trying to rewrite it. The softening of her walls isn't about vulnerability in the conventional sense. It's about recognition and relief. It's a moment of peace in a life that's constantly strategizing, analyzing, and protecting. And that peace, however fleeting, is the gateway to the rarest form of trust she will ever give. Number 6. The Sigma female has built an instinctive radar for emotional performance. She doesn't just notice tears, anger, or desperation. She reads the intent behind them. She knows the difference between someone crying for attention, manipulating emotions, or trying to gain leverage, and someone experiencing genuine suffering. Most people rarely pass this test, so she remains detached, observing the world like a chessboard, rarely letting herself be drawn in. But unfiltered pain is different. It has no agenda, no need for validation, no calculated expression. It's messy, raw, and unapologetically real. When she encounters someone displaying this level of authenticity, something inside her shifts. Her walls, which are normally unyielding, feel unnecessary for just a moment. She steps out of her analytical observer mode and reconnects with the raw humanity she so carefully shields herself from. This moment doesn't make her vulnerable in the typical sense. She doesn't drop her guard because she wants sympathy or connection. She drops it because unfiltered pain resonates on a level she rarely experiences. It's honest and undeniable, cutting through the armor she's spent years perfecting. She experiences empathy without effort, not because she's being manipulated, but because the truth of the suffering bypasses all her defenses. It's also a rare mirror for her own hidden struggles. Seeing someone else endure without performance reminds her that strength isn't always about composure or control. Sometimes it's just surviving honestly, feeling honestly, existing without pretense. And in that brief encounter, she allows herself to acknowledge that she too is human, capable of fragility, reflection, and raw emotion, even if only internally. For a Sigma female, witnessing unfiltered pain isn't about compassion as a social gesture. It's an awakening. It's a reminder that beneath her strategic independence lies a capacity for deep, unguarded human connection, a capacity she only reveals in the most extraordinary of circumstances. Number 7. The Sigma female thrives in complexity. Her mind is trained to navigate nuance, read between the lines and decode motives that most people don't even realize exist. She's seen every kind of manipulation, every mask, every hidden agenda, and has learned to respond with calculated detachment. Relationships, conversations, and even casual interactions are rarely straightforward for her, because she's always anticipating layers beneath the surface. But there are moments when simplicity surrounds her, pure, unfiltered sincerity that carries no agenda, no strategy, no expectation. People like this aren't common. Their behavior isn't conditioned by social games or hidden motives. Their authenticity isn't performative, and their intentions are immediately clear. When the Sigma female encounters this, her defenses, so carefully constructed against subtle manipulation, pause. It's not that she doubts their strength. It's that she's so unaccustomed to this level of honesty that her system doesn't know how to respond. Simplicity disarms her, not because it's naive or weak, but because it's rare, practically extinct in the environments she navigates. Her mind, trained to detect deception, finds no signal to decode, no strategy to counter, no reason to analyze. For a moment she can simply exist with people without the mental burden of constant vigilance. That pause, that rare window of peace, is enough to make her feel unexpectedly exposed, not in vulnerability, but in recognition. This encounter doesn't make her less self-reliant. It just reminds her that not everyone operates with the same layers of complexity she's accustomed to. The people who display genuine simplicity inadvertently teach her that authenticity can exist without complication, and that human connection doesn't always require scrutiny. In their presence, she allows herself a rare sense of ease, a temporary suspension of her strategic mind, and a quiet appreciation for the kind of truth that cannot be fabricated. For the Sigma female, simplicity isn't simplicity at all. It's revolutionary. It's rare enough to leave her momentarily unarmed, and that fleeting disarmament is both unsettling and profoundly magnetic. Number 8. The Sigma female treats her creativity like sacred territory. Whether it's writing, art, a personal project, or a late-night pursuit that she guards fiercely, the act of creation is where she exists without the usual filters. This is her private world, a place where she's not performing, negotiating, or managing impressions. It's not about showing off or seeking approval. It's about expressing herself on her own terms, in a way the world rarely sees. When someone accidentally witnesses her in the middle of this process, it's more than just a peek behind a curtain. It's exposure on a psychological level. She's not naked in a physical sense, but in that moment, her mind, her focus, and her vulnerability are entirely unshielded. The intensity she invests in her creation requires honesty, risk, and a willingness to engage with parts of herself she normally keeps hidden. That raw engagement is deeply personal, and very few ever get to witness it. Her reaction isn't theatrical or overly emotional. There's a subtle shift, a pause, a recalibration, a quiet observation of the intruder who's suddenly present in her inner sanctum. Part of her may withdraw instinctively, protecting the sacred space she rarely allows anyone to approach. But another part of her, the side that's human and curious, acknowledges the unusual intimacy of the moment. She feels seen in a way that bypasses social performance, which can be both exhilarating and unsettling for someone who guards her privacy as vigilantly as she does. Being caught in this act doesn't necessarily lead to connection, but it reveals a truth few experience, that the Sigma female's strength is intertwined with profound vulnerability. Her creations are extensions of herself, and witnessing them mid-process is like glimpsing the engine behind the persona she presents to the world. For her, these moments are rare, fragile, and revealing, the closest anyone ever comes to truly understanding her without words or effort. Number 9. The Sigma female lives in a world she carefully calibrates. Every thought, every decision, every interaction is measured and precise. Her mind is her strongest tool, and control is the framework that allows her to navigate life on her own terms. She's adept at managing chaos, predicting outcomes, and maintaining composure when others falter. But there are moments when control meets something entirely outside her grasp, something so raw, so profound, that it cannot be tamed or analyzed. This is beauty in its purest, most uncontrollable form. It could be the way sunlight fractures across a forest floor, a haunting melody that threads its way through her chest, or an instant that feels suspended beyond reason. In these encounters, her usual mental choreography falters. She stops categorizing, stops judging, and stops trying to interpret. For a brief, suspended moment, she simply feels, and feeling without analysis is something she almost never allows herself to do. Her guard falls quietly, almost imperceptibly. It's not a surrender or a crack in her armor, but a temporary recalibration, a recognition that some experiences exist outside the scope of control and strategy. She allows herself to be touched by it, to witness it fully without imposing her usual filters or defenses. The intensity of the moment bypasses her logic, bypasses her strategy, and reminds her of a deeper, quieter part of herself, the part that exists for experience, not for mastery. These fleeting encounters are rare and fleeting, but they leave a lasting mark. They remind the Sigma female that even the strongest minds and the most disciplined hearts cannot dominate every facet of existence. Some things demand presence over calculation, wonder over reason, and in that rare acknowledgement, her armor softens just enough to let in a glimpse of pure human awe, a reminder that even she, in all her independence, is not immune to the power of the uncontrollable. Number 10. The Sigma female is accustomed to carrying the weight of every interaction. People are drawn to her independence, her composure, and her ability to solve problems without complaint. Over time, she becomes a fortress that others lean on, a source of stability in a world that rarely offers the same. Being relied upon is part of her identity, but it's also exhausting. Constantly being the unshakable presence leaves little room for her to simply exist without responsibility or expectation. When she encounters someone who doesn't need her to hold everything together, something shifts. This person doesn't look to her for solutions or validation. They don't challenge her boundaries or require her to perform strength as a service. Instead, they allow her to simply be present, human, and unburdened. It's a quiet, rare form of relief, one that bypasses charm or strategy entirely. In that moment, the Sigma female exhales, often without realizing it. Her walls, built over years of calculated independence, soften naturally. She doesn't need to measure herself against expectations, prove her capability, or monitor every gesture. For the first time in a long while, she can exist without strategy, and the relief is almost tangible. It's not weakness, it's recognition. Being seen as human, not as a fortress or an untouchable mind, is a rare gift she rarely allows herself to experience. It's the kind of presence that recalibrates her perception of relationships, that connection doesn't have to be transactional, that intimacy doesn't always demand proof of strength. For a Sigma female, this encounter is extraordinary. It doesn't just soften her defenses momentarily, it reminds her that trust and comfort can exist without compromise. In that quiet space, her independence remains intact, but her heart experiences a rare reprieve. And for someone who understands this, they gain access to a side of her that is otherwise carefully reserved for solitude and self-reliance. Number 11. The Sigma female carries her independence like armor, and for most of her life, it's been her greatest strength. She thrives on self-sufficiency, calculated distance, and emotional control. To the outside world, she appears composed, unshakable, even untouchable. But every so often, she catches a glimpse of herself in a mirror, a photograph, or a quiet moment alone, and sees the truth beneath the surface. It's not vanity or self-critique. It's a sudden, piercing awareness of the cost of her independence. She notices the subtle loneliness she's hidden behind her calm exterior, the sacrifices she's made in relationships, the moments of intimacy she never allowed herself, and the walls she's built so high that even she struggles to climb them. The recognition is raw, immediate, and unavoidable. In that moment, her armor falters in a way no other person ever achieves. No argument, no conflict, no failed connection could crack her defenses like the honest confrontation with her own reflection. She feels the weight of her choices, the solitude she's cultivated, and the emotional sacrifices that came with being fiercely autonomous. It's a private reckoning, a rare internal vulnerability she doesn't share and doesn't perform. Yet this awareness isn't entirely painful. It's also clarifying. It reminds her that strength and loneliness are intertwined, and that her independence, while extraordinary, comes with costs she can't ignore. The shock of seeing herself clearly forces her to recalibrate her understanding of vulnerability, connection, and self-reliance. She doesn't immediately soften toward others, but she does soften internally, acknowledging a depth to her own experience that she rarely allows herself to feel. For the Sigma female, this confrontation with her reflection is both humbling and enlightening. It's a moment of introspection that reveals her humanity beneath the layers of control, a rare instance where she becomes fully aware of herself, not as the fortress she presents to the world, but as the complex, often lonely, and remarkably resilient woman she truly is. Number 12. The Sigma female doesn't hand out trust lightly. She measures loyalty meticulously, observing actions over time, reading intentions, and often testing the people around her without them realizing it. To her, loyalty isn't a casual gesture. It's proof of character, and it must be earned, never assumed. She spent years filtering relationships, keeping her inner circle small, and ensuring that those closest to her can withstand scrutiny without faltering. So when someone offers loyalty freely, without calculation or expectation, it disrupts her usual equilibrium. This loyalty isn't motivated by fear, admiration, or the power she exudes. It's simply given because the other person sees her as human, not as a fortress or a challenge. It's an authenticity she rarely encounters, and the unexpectedness of it unsettles her in a way that feels profound. Her defenses, which are normally unwavering, start to rewire subtly. She notices the absence of strings, the lack of manipulation, and the refusal to exploit her independence. That absence of agenda is radical to her, almost disarming. In that instant, she allows herself to lower her guard, not fully, but enough to recognize that someone has offered her something genuine without requiring proof or performance in return. This moment changes her internal calculation of human interaction. It reminds her that trust and loyalty don't always have to be earned through power dynamics, emotional games, or measured tests. They can exist freely, and when they do, they have the ability to create connection that her usual defenses rarely allow. For a Sigma female, experiencing loyalty returned without being earned is transformative. It doesn't make her dependent or vulnerable in the conventional sense. Instead, it opens a small, rare window into a relational possibility she often keeps closed. That recognition, respect, and allegiance can be authentic, effortless, and profoundly human. In that brief, fleeting moment, her armor softens, just enough for trust to take root where it seldom grows. Sigma females are often misunderstood as untouchable, cold, or unreachable. But beneath that meticulously maintained exterior lies a complexity few ever witness. The moments when they drop their guard are not signs of weakness. They are rare windows into the depth, humanity, and subtle vulnerability that exists beneath the armor. Whether it's a fleeting recognition of unearned loyalty, the quiet power of uncompromising gentleness, the shock of seeing their own reflection, or the simple presence of someone who doesn't demand their strength, these instances reveal the Sigma female's authentic self. Intricate, fiercely independent, yet profoundly human. These moments are not performative, nor are they designed for observation. They are sacred, fleeting, and transformative, capable of leaving an indelible impact on both her and those who are fortunate enough to witness them. Each instance demonstrates that the Sigma female's strength isn't just in her independence, intelligence, or strategic mind. It's in her capacity to feel deeply, to connect selectively, and to allow rare trust and understanding to enter a life otherwise governed by calculated boundaries. Understanding these rare glimpses into her world provides insight not just into the Sigma female's nature, but into the way human connection functions at its most refined level, where authenticity, respect, and subtlety outweigh noise, performance, and expectation. It reminds us that even the strongest, most self-contained individuals have points of vulnerability, and those points, when acknowledged correctly, can create extraordinary bonds that few ever experience. If you found this exploration fascinating and want to dive even deeper into the psychology, behaviors, and rare insights of Sigma personalities, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences, and share it with someone who needs to understand the rare genius behind the Sigma female mind. This is the kind of content that not only informs but transforms the way you perceive strength, independence, and the hidden moments that reveal the true human within.